Well, there are more than 20 Democrats campaigning to be next president of the United States, and with so many options, you'd think the Democratic voters would have a lot of choices, but really they don't have a lot of choices. They only control the cosmetic appearance of their next candidate. They can decide whether their nominee will be running to be the first Hispanic president or the first female president or the first gay president. But in everything that actually matters, in other words, what they believe, they're pretty much the same. All of them will be running on a platform of open borders, open prisons, free health care for illegals, etc. And all of them have the same tone of their campaign. They all spend the election campaign asserting their superiority to the country. They deserve to be president not simply because they're better than Donald Trump, but because morally they're better than you too. On the campaign trail, Bernie Sanders has been zealously demanding that other people and other businesses increase their minimum wage to $15 an hour. For example, he's accused Walmart of paying its employees, quote, starvation wages. He's also celebrated workers who have protested and gone on strike to demand a pay increase right now. Watch this.
I want to applaud the thousands and thousands of workers from coast to coast, people who work at McDonald's, people who work at Burger King, people who work all over this country, who have stood up over the years and demanded that the federal minimum wage be raised to a living wage, $15 an hour.
Okay, well, he couldn't have been clearer about that. So you would expect in the way that he lives, Sanders would set a good example for the rest of the country. But it turns out, and you may have guessed this, Bernie is so confident that he is a deeply good person and his cause is just, that he's just not shackled to the same rules that he wants everyone else to follow. For example, right now, Sanders' campaign is battling its own campaign workers. They say they're being paid the same starvation wages that Walmart employees get, less than $13 an hour. Sanders hasn't budged, though. If they aren't happy, they can go work on another campaign or they can quit. That's his position. If his presidential campaign doesn't work out, maybe he should manage a Walmart. He'd probably be pretty good at it, based on his management style. Bernie isn't the only candidate who can't match his own rhetoric about staffer pay, though. There are many. Kamala Harris, for example, is also running on a platform of being morally superior to everyone else, and particularly to you. You're immoral. She says America itself is sexist and that her administration is going to punish American businesses for being sexist. Listen.
I'm going to shift the responsibility to the big corporations to require them to prove they're paying people equally for equal work.
Harris promises that when she's president of the United States, and don't kid yourself, she could be, when that happens, companies will be hit with big fines for having a pay gap of even 1% between men and women if her administration decides that that gap is unjustified. So that raises the obvious question, what's the pay structure like at Kamala Harris's own office? Well, it turns out that Harris is paying women only 94 cents for every dollar men earn. It isn't just pay where Democrats aren't measuring up to the demands they impose on everyone else, however. There are many measures by which they're not measuring up. Kirsten Gillibrand has hopped on every single left-wing fad of the past 5 years. There isn't one she hasn't embraced wholeheartedly. 2 years ago, that meant that she led the push to force out Al Franken. Remember poor Al Franken, the hapless senator from Minnesota? He had to leave office thanks to Kirsten Gillibrand when there was no proof he'd done absolutely anything really seriously wrong. He was a jerk. He acted like one, but he wasn't a rapist. You'd never know the way that she acted. Afterward, Gillibrand looked back and justified herself. She said she wasn't leading a lynch mob. She was just protecting the weak. Watch.
Looking back, how do you evaluate your role in Franken deciding to resign?
So sometimes you just have to do what's right, even if it's painful, even if it's hard, even if it's someone you like or love. And the truth was, there were 8 credible allegations, and the last person was a congressional staffer. And having worked in this space for 5 years, if I can't protect the women in my workspace, if I can't not only stand up for women who feel abused or feel harassed in our workplace, then I'm not doing my job.
If I can't protect women in my workplace, I'm not doing my job. That's Kirsten Gillibrand's position. Well, in real life, back here in reality, it turns out that Gillibrand was perfectly happy not to do her job as soon as there were no political points to be scored. Last summer, just last summer, not in 1985, like the other day, one of Gillibrand's aides resigned over sexual harassment from one of her superiors. The aide said that although she complained about the harassment in Kirsten Gillibrand's office, the internal investigation was brief and her concerns were quickly dismissed. Just a girl complaining. That's how Kirsten Gillibrand actually lives. Harris, Sanders, and Gillibrand show look at the bright side, though. They're not even close to being the worst hypocrites in the field of candidates running for president. That prize, you know exactly who that goes to, Bill de Blasio, the most incompetent mayor in the history of New York. We assure you, though, you've never met a single de Blasio supporter in the wild. There aren't any, but he's still running for president. He's built his campaign around the environment, his concern about the environment. He loves Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal, so much that he stole the idea for his city. And he says he's going to lead by example right until he hops into his gas-guzzling SUV to head to another political event.
We are here in New York City to show how it needs to be done, to show how it must be done. Today, we announced the New York City Green New Deal. We have skin in the game, the city government. We're going to lead by example.
A year from now, de Blasio's presidential campaign will be mercifully over, but he will live on because his attitude now defines the entire Democratic Party. Do what I tell you to do, just don't expect me to do the same.